We're reading lesbian fantasy. It's a goal of mine to read more queer fiction in general, but I'm a big fantasy girly. But one thing severely lacking in representation in fantasy books, I feel like, are lesbians. Where are the lesbians? Priory of the Orange Tree, I know, has queer women in it, and it has been on my TBR for a very long time, and this is where I unfortunately tell you that we're not reading this in today's video. I am still too intimidated by this. I'm pretty sure it's an epic fantasy. It's so big. It's overwhelming to think about reading this. So instead, I'm going to read Malice, which is part of a duology. I just picked this up recently. I'm very excited about it. I thought that it was going to be spicy though, and I don't think it is because I think that on the back I'm reading that it's YA. But I'm very excited. I'm just so excited about this video. Here we go. I am always wrong in these videos, specifically fantasy videos. I had told you that I heard that this had no spice, and all of a sudden it has some spice. There's some bite to it. Ooh. Del Rey has been the publisher of a couple queer books that I've read recently, and I just learned that it is a part of Penguin Random House. So maybe I was wrong. This is not YA. I realized that I didn't actually tell you in this video what Malice is about. I think I said it in the video where I bought Malice. So Malice is a queer sapphic retelling of Sleeping Beauty told from the villain's point of view. So we have Alice, our evil sorceress. It's a magical world where we have humans and we have fae, but we also have these group of blessed people that are like a gift from the fae to the humans. But these magical women are owned by the king, kind of, and live in these essentially brothels where people come to purchase their magic, and each magical person has their own type of magic. It might be for beauty or for wisdom or for music. And our lovely Alice is the only one of her kind, and her magic is all dark magic. In kind of a Cinderella way, she is kind of kept separate and doesn't get to do things like attend balls because she's associated with evil. But she goes to this one ball, she meets our Princess Aurora, they hit it off, and our story takes off. Aurora obviously has a curse on her where she needs to find her true love's kiss. In this retelling, she's awake. She's not to wake her up from a spell, it is to keep her from dying. This spell will kill her. It killed her two older sisters. If she does not kiss her one true love before the time runs out, she is going to be... I absolutely loved this book. I definitely give it 5 stars. I thought it was really fun. I loved all of the different dynamics in this book. I loved Alice and her personal growth journey and finding out more about her kind of magic and where she came from. I loved her relationship with Aurora, and if you love a story where the villain gets the girl, this is for you. Although, I will say Alice is one of the most likable villains I have ever come across. My kids wouldn't nap, so they're being a little cranky for their other mom. I found the pacing really good with this book, and I was never bored. It kept me wanting to read the next page, what's gonna happen next. Oh my goodness, there was lots of twists and turns, and I just thought it was great. There is a second book. This is a duology. I do not have that book. I wish I did because I would read it right now if I did, but I'm on a book buying ban because I have way too many books on my physical TBR. So this book was great. I would recommend it. Now to go help with my cranky children. So my physical TBR has kind of gotten out of control and I have over 80 books on it, but not many queer fantasy. I do have Priory of the Orange Tree, like I've said, but it is just too big. It is overwhelming. I can't think about tackling it right now, but I'm also in a book buying ban because my TBR is so crazy long. There are a few queer fantasy books that I definitely want to read, like Gideon the Ninth and the sequel to Malice. I freaking love that book. I want to get the second book now. I want to get it yesterday, but I'm trying to hold myself back and not go crazy. So instead of buying a book, we're gonna read one on Kindle Unlimited, and my choice is Her Spell That Binds Me. It says that it's a dark, sapphic fantasy romance. It's about witches. The threads of fate pull Iona to Lysander College, an illustrious school for aristocratic witches of great renown. Wow, it's just gonna be a really wordy book. It says that it is a female-female rivals to lovers dual POV dark fantasy romance novel. So let's see what happens. I'll try to explain it once I have a better understanding of what's going on. So I'm far enough into Her Spell That Binds Me that I feel like I can explain a bit of the plot to you. I know it's always an option just to read the little blurbs on the back, but you know how wordy that was when I tried and I could not get through it. So Her Spell That Binds Me is a witchy sapphic romance. It's dual point of view from Iona, and I'm just gonna call her A because it's one of those situations where her name is this and it's too complicated for me to say. It's one of those like Hermione Granger situations where no one could say her name right. So in one of the books, Hermione had to explain how to pronounce her name. That's what I needed in this situation. I think it's a Greek name. I can't say it. I'm not even gonna try. We're just gonna call her A. So we have these two witches. Iona spends her whole life on the seaside in a little shack with just her mother because her father passes away when she's young. They get all of their money by turning rocks into pearls and then selling them at nearby towns. Her mother though is extremely sick. And ends up calling an old friend of hers and convincing her daughter that she should go to this Lysander College, this university for witches. It's a one-year program, and her mom says she's gonna go try to commune with nature and see if she can tap into the magic and make herself better. So she goes to this school. It turns out that there's a lot of like prejudice towards common witches, and it's set in Regency England, so think kind of like Bridgerton vibes. Like people are really hoity-toity, really care about their rank in society. It's like that. Then we have A, who is that hoity-toity fancy witch with a very prestigious last name. She's a prodigy. Basically, these two ladies hate each other and they're battling it out. They're all fighting it out for a chance to win this magical pendant. But it turns out that there is a bad witch among them and she is trying to kill people. So that is the plot of the book so far. Going good, I will say. There's one interesting thing, I don't think this is a spoiler, but as a lesbian who has children and had to do IVF and wishes, like wouldn't it be nice to just be able to mix my genes and my wife's genes and have like cute little babies? So basically they talk about that at one point in the book. Once they've gone from enemies to lovers, obviously, they're talking about how they can have children in the future if they want. Basically they just say that they can conjure up a child because they're really good at magic, which just seems, I don't know, you're gonna make a person? I feel like magic has its limits, and that is where magic has its limits in my mind personally. I don't think you could conjure up a human. Wait, I love that I'm saying like, oh, some magic is believable, some isn't. When it's just magic, none of it's believable. So there's also that, obviously. This is gonna take so long to fill. This is the biggest bathtub I've ever seen. It's like a pool. I finished Her Spell That Binds Me, and right off the bat, you need to know that this was 5 stars for me. The witchy vibes were impeccable. I loved the magic. I loved the magic system. I just thought that the fantasy elements, the witch elements, they were so cool and they were so well done. But this is a romantasy, so the romance was also there. It was so good. So these women are rivals to lovers in this book, and for me that can go good or bad, and I think this was really well done. It's not one of those books where they're going to immediately end up together, which I really appreciate because I hate when I'm reading and enemies to lovers or rivals to lovers and there's just a little bit of bickering and then they're immediately together. I feel like this relationship had a really good build up and there was a lot of tension in the beginning, in the rival stage, that I just think really added to the relationship and just It kept me interested. It kept me reading. Another thing is it's spicy. I didn't know until I read A Court of Thorns and Roses that spice in books, spiciness was a thing. I really want to know, has spice always been around in books? Like in mainstream popular books, has spice always been around? My grandmother reading Harlequin romance, was there spice in those and I just didn't know? I need to know. Please let me know that. This book is definitely a little more niche. There's not a ton of reviews and stuff on it on Kindle Unlimited. I don't think it's a widely popular book, but I loved it. They also have familiars in this book, which is like your animal protector, bestie friend kind of. And one is a wolf and one is a fox. And I love the dog vibes. I love the dog vibes. Also, this takes place in a magical school, so you're seeing a lot of the school element. It'd be more like a university, not like a middle school or high school kind of situation. It's a college, I guess. It's called college, so it's college. You get to see a lot of the magic work in class, which I thought was really fun and interesting and added to like the fantastical elements of the story. And another thing I really enjoyed about this was that it was kind of a mystery book. So we're spending the book trying to figure out who the Maleficent? I don't know how you say a lot of things. Anyone else like me where you like read a word and it makes total sense and then you try to like pronounce it out loud and you're like, I don't know what I'm saying. Was it a Maleficent, like the character in Sleeping Beauty? Maybe, I don't know. But you're trying to figure out who the bad witch is, who's doing all the bad things. Also, one thing that I really appreciate about this book is that it is a standalone fantasy book. I love fantasy. I don't always love that fantasy books are part of these huge mega series. Sometimes I just want a one and done fantasy book, which I feel like is so common in every other genre, but when it comes to fantasy, it's normally huge series. So I really appreciate that it is just a one and done book. So it's on Kindle Unlimited. I gave it 5 stars. Spice level, I might give it a 4 spice. And in this video, I found 2 really good lesbian fantasy books, which I just am so happy about. I'm so excited to be reading more queer fantasy. I will say though that it's really hard for me to find queer fantasy books. Like, I wish that I had a list that told me just lesbian fantasy books and I could go through and read them, but I'm really struggling with actually finding titles that are lesbian or sapphic or queer women. So if any of you have recommendations on queer books, specifically queer fantasy, specifically sapphic, let me know down in the comments please, because I need to read them all. I want to read them all and I can't find that many, so please. This was so fun. I 100% want to read more lesbian fantasy books. So like I said, I'm having a little bit of trouble finding like lists of good ones, finding other people's recommendations. So if you have any in general lesbian books, but any specifically fantasy books that you really enjoy, please let me know down in the comments. I really want you to share them because I really need to make a list of other people's recommendations. So thank you for watching, my little book buddies. I'll be back really soon with another video and I'll see you then. Here's my warning though that I'm actually in a book slump, guys, so I haven't been reading anything. That's why this video's late, because I couldn't even bring myself to finish Her Spell That Binds Me, even though I loved it. Pray for me, and I'll be back soon. I hope.